that incorporates everything. It is the most incorporative word that we have. Shay. Laysa kamithlihi shay, Quran says. Absolutely nothing is like God. In religion, in the Quran, and the Imams keep telling us that true Tawheed is that Tawheed that you separate God's attributes from human attributes, from attributes of creation. So therefore you understand who God is from detail. Then the aql might wonder, says, well, I see God in the hereafter. The aql will tell you as well, but also the scripture will confirm that. So you cannot see God in the hereafter. Imam Rida, that had narrations we have, as opposed to Ahl Sunnah that says Ru'yatullah is possible in the hereafter, seeing God is possible. We say God cannot be seen in the hereafter. God is seen by the heart. The bears are removed. So therefore you have this beautiful tool known as the aql to determine God exists, His attributes, and then to find what is the correct path to His worship. Let's give another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That's the theoretical intellect. But also the practical intellect is this. Let me tell you a little bit about the practical intellect. The practical intellect means this, is that our aql is in a way designed that it can distinguish between what is good and what is evil to an extent. The practical intellect knows, for example, dhulm and oppression is haram. Dhulm means what? Going beyond, everything has a boundary. Going beyond the boundaries of something is oppression. Going around passing through or taking the rights of another person is oppression. You're passing the rights of someone else. For example, we know other things that everything has to be put in its own place. For example, the aql understands. So when you look at the traditions, it talks about lo lam yanha Allah subhanahu an maharime lawajaba an yajtanabiha al-aqil. If God the glorified did not forbid His prohibitions, it would still be incumbent that He stayed away by the man of intellect, from Imam Ali. If God did not make things haram, the pure intellect would find those things and would allow them and tell them these are haram. For example, lying. The intellect says it's haram, Shara says it's haram. Things that remove aql, cause intoxication. The aql says, look, this is not right for us to lose my mind. Or relationships that are haram, for example. Aql says, what are you doing? This is wrong. So to some extent, yes, the aql amali, the practical aql, is telling you that these actions are bad or these actions are good, for example. And it's very unfortunate when you understand, examine this, you see, look, many things in society sins that people are committing are sins that the common intellect is saying it's wrong. They even know it's wrong. And that is when you know that society is in trouble. Because it's not rocket science. When you see people stealing from one another, taking the rights of one another, oppressing one another, for example, or types of relationships that are haram, that is corruption, this is the aql. The aql is saying it's haram. You don't need a verse of Quran necessarily to tell you this is wrong, don't do this. So therefore, you see this way that we are in society, the low level that we've reached in this world at this time. The things that the aql and intellect says is wrong, people are committing. So therefore, you see that when it comes to the practical intellect at the same time, though, needs to be helped by religion. Yes, lying is haram by the intellect. But exactly when can a person lie? When should a person ever lie? Maybe there's a condition. The details come from religion again. The completion comes from religion. That we need to come to the Imams, we need to come to the Prophet, we need to go to the Quran to understand, are there cases that lying is actually my duty? There are. And I gave this example before. If it comes to something more important, religion says lying here is allowed. Or even when it comes to sometimes islah between two people, religion says you can even make up things to do islah between two people. Two people, they're at bad terms with one another. You can say things to bring them together, for example. To end tonight's speech about living an intellectual lifestyle, I want to share an interesting narration from the Prophet, inshallah. Let's recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. And these are attributes of the aqil, to see, and I want you to examine yourself to see how aqil we are. How much of our lifestyle is aqli, is intellectual, is by the aql. The Prophet of Islam mentions that there are sifa for the aql. For the intellectual person, there are attributes. Let's see if we have them. One, how do we know if we are an intellectual, if our life is governed by the aql? One, it says the aql an yahluma amman jahila alay, is that the attribute of a man of intellect is he is clement, he is patient with one who behaves rashly with him, one who is ignorant. Did you ever see an ignorant person sometimes in your life? They don't really have much knowledge, maybe they don't have much education, or they didn't study much, and they behave in a way, they do weird things. They do, look at yourself. If you want to know you're intellectual, if you live your life by the aql, see if you're patient with them. A patient person that is intellect, his body is being run by his aql. And he says, no, this is not right. I should not make fun of him. I should be patient with him. I should not get upset with him just because I know a little bit more than him. The second is وَيَتَجَاوَزُ عَمَّنْ ظَلَمَ. The aqil, the intellectual person, when a person comes and does dhulm of him, takes away their rights, does something to them and upsets them, he forgives them, overlooks the faults. This is an aqil person. Many times, actually, when you go to these narrations, sometimes we think we're aqil, but actually we're not aqil. It comes in the family many times. You hear something from far, from the spouse. You can answer back. You hear something, even sometimes very sensitive, about your own family, and you can say something back about their family, for example. They make a joke. They say the family of each other, aqawmu dhalameen, of each other. There's a joke that they say that they're people of oppression, each family, because each one loves their own family much more. For example, not everyone, but in general. They have more inclinations, they're similar more to their own family, they're more sensitive to the family. And they hear things like that, and the aqil person forgives it, overlooks it. It's okay, they don't know, I'm going to have patience. That's the akhlaq of the anbiya, that they forgive. Actually, we have traditions that one of the most important parts, or one of the parts of having a good, ethical behavior is taghaful. Pretending I didn't hear it. I don't know what they're talking about. There's times you have to put yourself in that situation. I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't hear it. So that intellectual person is one that lets it go all the time. We had one of our ulama, one time I said this story and they told me that do not tell stories like this of this alim because you're condoning abusive relationships, they told me. Do not tell these stories. But I said anyways because it's the life of our ulama. If someone wants to reach high levels of akhlaq. I told us Sayyid Ahmad Khansari was a great mujtahid that lived in Tehran. And they went to Ayatollah Burujerdi and asked for a mujtahid, and they brought him for the bazaar of Tehran. Very pious person. I will tell you later on the minbar, but ask me, I'll tell you some of the stories of the ihtiyat, how much caution he had with certain things. And they say that he had a wife that had a really bad, akhlaq was terrible. And they kept telling him, divorce her, she's not right, just divorce. Because he was an important marja. And his wife, though, was, causing a lot of trouble. They would say, I heard from, Ayatollah Bahjat's son. He was saying that one time, he was narrating, someone went in to visit him and he heard yelling, screaming. Ayatollah Khan went up to talk to his family. He came down and he had a bloody head. His wife had hit him and blood was coming, from his head. So, but the patience that he had, again, if somebody has an abusive relate, I have to now put this because they don't. If someone is suffering, is being abused, please go find someone to consult with. Go find someone. But he chose the path of patience, extreme patience, and they would say divorce her, and he would let go of all of these things. He would say, if I divorce her, where will she go? Where she's going to go to after if I divorce? He felt sorry. He'd be abused every day. But, he was a very patient person, and he had, he had at that time patience. So he overlooked the faults. But maybe this is a very, very extreme example. Again, in such situations, maybe someone should go and consult with a family, psychologist or something. وَيُسَابِقُ مَنْ فَوْقَهُ فِي طَلَبِ الْبِرِّ وَيَتَوَاضَعَ لِمَنْ هُوَ دُونَهُ. And he is humble even towards one who is lower than him in rank. The third attribute. How do you know if you're aqil? Is that you're more humble. Someone that his rank is lower than you. You're humble with them. You're humble. You never see that our prophets and imams were arrogant with anyone, anytime. They're always humble with them. And you see the servants of God, our scholars and those that were truly helping the Muslim world, how humble they were. The fourth, وَيُسَابِقُ مَنْ فَوْقَهُ فِي طَلَبِ الْبِرِّ. He tries to get ahead of those above him in his quest for good. He forgives those. He is humble towards those that are below him. But how does he treat those that are above him? He has a thing that's called here yusabiq. There's a musabiqa. There's a race. This is called qibta, for example, in Arabic. Meaning that you wish, when you see someone better than you, you wish you become like them. You race with them. You compete with them in a good way. Like as-sabiqun in Surah Al-Waqa'ah. They're trying to, be better than one another. They're competing in a healthy way. They, for example, study hard. You learn from them and you study hard. It's not jealousy. Because jealousy means that you wish that trait is removed from that person. That's jealousy and it's haram. Qibta means that you see something in that person and you want to have that. And you're encouraged by that. You see them worship. You see them go to ziyarat all the time. You see them come to the masjid all the time. You say, I want to be like that. And you're competing with the believers. That was, why we've been created, actually. When you look at some of the verses in Surah Al-Mulk, that God has created us to see, ahsanu amala, which one of us has the best deeds. That this life is just a race. That everyone here is competing in a good way, a halal way. That you're trying to see who is better, who is more sincere, who's going to have more actions. وَإِذَا أَرَادَ أَنْ يَتَكَلَّمْ تَدَبَّرْ. An intellectual, a person that lives an intellectual lifestyle, is one who before he speaks, they think. They do tadabbur before they talk. Many people just talk all the time because there's shahwa in talking. Al-kalam yajurru al-kalam. Speech brings speech. You see people all the time, especially those that have a long drive or something, sometimes taxi drivers or something. You go, they will not leave you alone. People that are, sometimes in the car too, and they just want the time to pass. They'll keep talking. Just about anything. They'll say anything. They just love talking. But do not be like that. Think before you talk to someone. Think a little bit. And the tradition has this. This is how they are. When it comes to speech, they think, فَإِنْ كَانَ خَيْرًا تَكَلَّمَ فَغَنِمْ. If it is good, they think, is this good for me to say? Is this something good? If it is good, they think about it, they say it, and it benefits them. وَإِنْ كَانَ شَرًّا سَكَتْ فَسَلِمْ. And if it is bad, he is quiet and remains safe as a result. How many times, maybe we've seen here, someone has told you something that you get upset with. They ask you a question that you do not like, something personal, or sometimes they criticize you in a way. But the aql person thinks about it. Even if they want to criticize you, they want to help you out, they bring you privately and say, look, maybe you should have done this better this way, brother. Right? And we'll end, inshallah, with these last few ones. فَإِذَا أَرَادَتْ لَهُ فِتْنَةً اسْتَعْصَمَ بِاللَّهِ وَإِمْسَكَ يَدَهُ وَلِسَانَهُ. If they see fitna, temptation, arise before him, he folds his hands to God. The aql person folds his hands. He says, why would I sin? Aql says, I'm here for a limited time. I don't know if death can happen right now when I'm sinning. Israel can come right now and take my soul. God forbid, I'm doing something haram. So when something haram comes, they'll say, I'll never trade, aql person, never trade something that is small for an infinity. Our hereafter, brother and sister, is infinite. Is our eternity. The dar al-akhirah lahiya al-hayawan. It is life itself. The hereafter is life. Why would I give up anything for my real life? The aql says. So when it comes to sinning God, he understands this is the sin of God. He understands who God is. He understands his death can come anytime. He says, I'm not going to sin. He says, it folds his hands. وَأَمْسَكَ يَدَهُ وَلِسَانَهُ. He folds his hands. He folds his tongue is quiet. That is an aql person. وَإِذَا رَأَى فَضِيلَةً انْتَهَزَ بِهَا. If he sees virtue, fadila is anything good, benefit you could say. He seizes it. It's something good, he takes it. He sees a group of people praying together, he comes. He sees there's a program over there, he seizes it. He sees even for economic reasons, there's a good business out there. He sees it, goes to it. There's a good, exhibition or something, he can learn more about his trade. He goes to it, he seizes it. But not in this way. He seizes that fadila, he seizes that benefit, but not in a way that la yufariquhu al-haya. It doesn't take away his modesty. Some people get nasty when it comes, they see some benefit, they become nasty. They're good before, but now as you're talking about money, now they're going to lose all that akhlaq that they used to have before. They want to sell you something now. What happened, brother? You sold me this thing. It doesn't even work anymore. I thought you were a good brother from the masjid. It doesn't even work. It doesn't even start, this car that you sold me, brother. Right? So he looks at an opportunity, but not in a way that he gives up his haya and modesty. He's still a modest person. وَلَا يَبْدُ مِنْهُ الْحِرْصِ. And therefore not displaying any greed. He doesn't have greed. He takes opportunities in the dunya and the akhirat, but he doesn't push people away. He doesn't take away people's rights. He doesn't abuse people. He has haya, and he doesn't have hirs. And the last thing was this. So these are the person that is aql will be known by these brothers and sisters. So therefore you understand, to be truly intellectual, it has these conditions. And we ask ourselves, are we truly aql people? Or are we crazy people? That's the opposite of someone who's aql is crazy. So when they say how many, how few are the aql people and how many are the crazy people. That's a true reality. May Allah inshallah make us of the uqala. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajam. Muhammad wa ajal farajam wa ajal farajam. Ya Allah, we ask you to, in the month of Rajab, allow us to worship you, fast for you, make dua, and accept our a'mal in the month of Rajab, inshallah. May Allah grant us knowledge, because a person that has knowledge but has a little bit amount of deeds is better than a person that has a lot of worship but has a little amount of knowledge. Ya Allah, bless the souls and forgive the souls of our departed. Give shafa to our sick, inshallah. Give sustenance to those that are in poverty. Ya Allah, give us khair of dunya and akhirah, inshallah. Allah, protect our scholars, inshallah, for us. Protect those that help our scholars, inshallah. Build our masjids for us, inshallah. give life again to our masjids, inshallah. We ask you to be of the companions of Imam Zaman, inshallah, and for us to be able to see the beautiful son, which is Imam Zaman, inshallah, with our own eyes. To expedite his return, please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farj. Allahumma salli ala